What's up everyone? John Rettinger from Techno Buffalo here with an unboxing and overview of a product so crappy that I cannot wait to show it with you, and you can all bask in its knockoff awesomeness. Please meet the ePad. Let's go ahead and dig in. Alright, so before we look at all the fake knockoffness of this device, let's go ahead and check out the box, because the box itself is super entertaining. First, I think this is running Android 2.1, yet it's got the Internet Explorer logo right there as part of the E. That's kind of funny in its own right. So the box itself is just a ton of jokes sort of built into it. So first, there's a Windows logo in the upper right-hand corner, which is awesome, with a minimize... and the close button. The battery they're showing is almost drained with just a little bar of battery life. It's got the Windows Explorer, or Internet Explorer rather, icons across the top with the home and the back. I mean, stuff you really haven't seen since XP. The icons are on the front are clearly a mashup of some iOS, some Windows, and what other weird things they could come up with. I had a family friend that went to China, brought this back for me, thought it was too funny not to share. I can't really tell you what this thing costs because they didn't really know it was a gift from someone they knew in China. But Amazon's got something similar listed for $249. This thing is probably not worth the cost of the box that it's put in. So don't even consider buying one of these things. Let me just show it to you and show you why. Alright, so the box itself, super funny, filled with very weird contradictions. Let's go ahead and open it up. We've got a power adapter and a little sort of a proprietary port. Might be micro USB here for Ethernet. We'll talk about that in a minute. Let's go ahead and pull out the ePad and bask in its awesomeness for just a few minutes. Alright, so clearly it's supposed to look like the iPad, right? Hence the pad name. And it looks similar, you know, I'll give it that. It's got a black bezel and has a screen and a home button. Let's go ahead and take a look around the device. So you've got supposedly stereo speakers, super crappy, don't work. We'll talk about those a little bit. On the top, we've got nothing. It's supposed to be a microphone, doesn't really work. It's supposed to be also an ambient light sensor, doesn't work either. There's another microphone input here. So here we've got sort of a proprietary port, doesn't really do much. There's your power button. That's where you're supposed to be able to plug in that Ethernet port. Doesn't work either. Volume up and down. You've got DC in. You've got a strange mini USB port. You've got an actual USB port. Audio in and out. There's a hard reset button. And then there's yet another microphone in the back. It doesn't even have a fake Apple logo. Alright, so let's go ahead and turn this guy on. For those of you that are familiar with Android, this is supposedly running Android 2.1, which obviously is based on the open source Linux operating system. We don't necessarily see Linux when you boot into typical Android. So check this out. I'm going to go ahead and turn the power on. Going to go ahead and boot up. You get the ePad logo. You can see me in there. Check it out. The Tux Penguin. That's kind of funny. Not something you see. Very strange, sort of an old Android look. I'm not sure if they just copied Android and sort of made their own operating system that looked like Android, which would be weird because Android's open source anyway. But as I sort of go through and show you, you'll see. So you get that's sort of an Android logo not many people are familiar with. And this is not just a stock Android that you get. You get a blue indicator light also letting you know that it's powered on. I can't wait till this thing boots up so I can show you the crappy awesomeness of this thing. So it is a resistive touchscreen that it's using. And you're looking at this saying, okay, it looks kind of Android-y. Maybe John doesn't know what he's talking about. So let's go ahead and take a look first at this menu. So it's Android, but you don't have a home button, a back button, or a search button. They put those buttons at the top. So let's say I want to jump into settings, which we'll go back to in a minute. And then you're like, hey, I don't want to be in settings. Oh, look, that settings isn't even opening up. There you are. Let's say, hey, I don't want to be in settings. Well, there's no home button to go back to. You have to actually hit it on the screen to go back. And it'll sort of work sometimes. Not always. Alright, so speaking of settings, let's go ahead and jump in and see if we can learn anything about this guy. So we'll go ahead and scroll to the bottom, and there is About Device. Let's go ahead and check out. So there's a model number, box, some Chinese symbol. And you've got firmware version 2.1, so it is running Android 2.1, which sort of gives devices that are not running Android 2.1 no excuse to not be at least running with a sort of modern version of Android. You can get any more information on that. Not going to get much. Baseband version unknown. Legal information. What kind of legal information can they say about this thing? Open source licenses. That's the legal information. So some of the Android stuff does work. You can get the services thing. And speaking of services, let me go ahead and go back, and I'll use that button at the top to go back. Let's go ahead and go back one more. Let's see. Go back again. All right, so let's take a look at some of the wireless stuff here, which is kind of neat. First, there's Ethernet configuration. You don't really see that much in Android. Let's go to wireless and networks here. 3G EVDO. Turn on the 3G EVDO network, which